Hey, 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 hey. How are you doing, everybody? It is Monday. Christmas is almost upon us. The holiday season is here. People are celebrating whatever respective traditions or holidays that you have in your family or in your heritage. Some have already started, and some are starting soon. And I hope that you are having an amazing time celebrating with family and getting to spend and share time with family. During the pandemic, we weren't really able to do that, and now things have kind of eased off most of the world where you're able to do that again. But sometimes you can have it where you're like, "Yay, I get to spend more time with family," and then you get in with family and you're like, "Oh right, I didn't really love this before. What am I doing?" I hope that's not the case for any of you, but I do know that there's a good chance that possibly that might be what's happening. So if that's the case, I am sorry for you, and I hope that it works out better. I'm trying to reorganize things as I get this going. We are going to be hanging out for the final time, hopefully not ever, but for the final time with this book, doing these cold reads for Industrial Strength Magic by Macronomicon. Hey, Will. Oh God, family. It's hard because uh, you have family that you love them. We love our family. Um, but sometimes I think that's the thing that shows us that family is gives us that evidence that we can love something and hate it at the same time. Um, just like we can love ourselves and hate ourselves at the same time. So this shouldn't be unfamiliar territory for us. But what it does do is give us um, it gives us the opportunity to be patient, right? It teaches us how to be patient and how to be kind. Um, and uh, and sometimes that's easier than other times, but you know, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. It's um oh we have did we did chapter 8, didn't we? I thought we did chapter 8. Dress for Success. We did. Sorry, I'm making sure that I'm at the right place here. Um but yeah, I hope that you guys all have a great time with your families, and that people manage to control their behaviors and not say anything horrible or deplorably bad, and uh, do inappropriate stuff when they get completely intoxicated, and then you have a wonderful time with the family that may surprise you, and that it doesn't turn into a holy Hannah hell of mess. But in the meantime, or if you're in the middle of it and you need a break, come hang out with me here as we read Industrial Strength Magic by Macronomicon. This is our last time together, as I was saying before. We're doing chapter 9 and chapter 10, and then we're done with the cold read to give you a preview of what this book is kind of going to be like, which I think has been immensely awesome, at least for me. Normally, I don't do my prep live at all. I just read it on my downtime and get to laugh at all this stuff by myself. But we're checking it out together. I haven't pre-read any of this book. I'm not familiar with any of the stuff that's going on, so we're kind of learning as we go, going through this and getting an idea for some of the characters, what's going on, at least these early stages, and then get an idea for who we would like to portray all the characters in here. So we're getting an idea for that, which is really exciting. And I'm really happy to be working on this one with Sound Booth Theater. It's going to be my first multicast, and that's phenomenal. So you can be in better hands with than Sound Booth Theater on that kind of front. So without too much further ado, let's get into it. Chapter 9 is called No Plan Survives First Contact, and isn't that the truth? Um, we're back with Harry, Perry and Heather, you know, Harry. Um, and we're gonna be trying to steal some small arms from Heather's dad's contacts, using the armor that Perry has invented with cardboard. You know, standard stuff. Yeah, the things you do in high school, everyday stuff, everyday items. Um, so yeah, let's catch up with them again as they get after these guys. Perry and Heather were crouched in the rafters of the warehouse, right beside a melted hole in the roof, where some supers had presumably been in a slug match. If things went wonky, they'd fly up through the hole and escape. Things got dull fast, and eventually Perry just lay down on the steel ceiling beam. Perry just lay down on the steel ceiling beams, tucked his arms behind his head, and started thinking about his next spell frame. Once he figured out the perfect ratio of fruit to horn and figured out the exact frequency he needed, then the next part was just engineering. Rather than a large silver bowl that made people's entire bodies into puddles, maybe he could make a concave silver disc with a shallow curve, a little bigger than a silver dollar. Then he could. What are you doing? Heather asked. Being patient. If you want to crouch the whole time we're waiting, enjoy the cramps. Heather watched him for a moment, then untucked her legs from under her and leaned back against a beam. It felt like forever, but the weapons dealers and the gangsters showed up precisely on time. Heather tapped him on the shin, dragging his attention away from his mental designs for a paste applicator. I feel like, okay, so in this part, what we're gonna have to do is give the indication of some time lapsing. Um, Between this, she leaned her back against the beam, and then give a little bit of pause so that we feel like time has passed, and then you go, it felt like forever, but the weapons dealers and gangsters showed up precisely on time. Heather tapped him on the shin, dragging his attention away from his mental designs for a paste applicator. Heather held a finger in front of her helmet and pointed down. Perry nodded and turned over, crouching as the rumbling sound of a truck grew audible, his heart rate skyrocketing. We're actually doing this. Wait, how does Heather know how to drive a stick shift? Perry thought as the large truck rumbled into the oversized building. Pretty sure those are manuals. Well, I guess we'll worry about it when we get there. Heather's dad hopped out of the left truck, and Perry's hackles rose. Carnos had bright blonde hair cut military style, a black button-up shirt with the collar popped up and half unbuttoned, and a gold watch on his wrist. It was a strange cross between minimalist professional and villain chic. He pulled it off, though. Heather spread her fingers wide and lowered her hand slowly. Wait. Calm. That's right. We're not robbing her. That's right. We're not robbing her dad. We're robbing the guys her dad supplies. Way less dangerous. Who's this talking here? I've, uh, maybe it's Perry. I've got lookouts in the rafters. Oh, no, it'd be Heather probably. I've got lookouts in the rafters. Engaging. Okay. Perry glanced over his shoulder and spotted a young man. Oh, no, it's probably one of the guys. Maybe her dad, which we'll have to figure out in a little bit. If Macronomicon, you can give me some indication as to who that is for sure, that would be awesome. So then it's not Perry, because Perry's like, okay, like what? Perry glanced over his shoulder and spotted a young man in sky blue spandex floating down through the melted hole in the ceiling. Crap. Is that cardboard? He stammered upon getting closer to the two of them. Okay, so jet set, 15 minutes ago. Okay. It is a named hero you encounter later. Good to know. We'll find out more about them as we come through. I'm just, I assume that the person that is going to be like, that asks this, is that cardboard, is the guy in blue spandex. But I've got lookouts in the rafters engaging. Yeah, okay, that would be that same guy. Okay, yeah, okay. It's another super kid. Okay, I see. All right. So he's the one that's like, I've got lookouts in the rafters, engaging. Okay, we'll figure out his voice and who he is when we get to him. Jet Set, 15 minutes ago. Is that the guy's name? 4 super sat in a semicircle regarding their leader. Okay, here's the plan, Titan said, rolling out the maps. Warcry. Oh, we've heard the plan 1,000,000 times, Warcry groaned. Oh, that's a girl. We've heard the plan 1,000,000 times, Warcry groaned, beating her head against the wall, neon purple shimmers reflecting her frustration. You'll hear it as many times as necessary, Titan said. I don't know what Titan's going to sound like. We're going to have to figure that out. We'll figure out these characters as we get to know them. We've got word that the Razors are doing an arms deal tonight. They're going to gather up a huge amount of money and leave their base in a box truck here. Titan pointed at the Razor's base on the map. We're going to park Hardcase's mom's car here. Titan pointed at several blocks further west, the mousy tinker girl nodding as her name was mentioned. Okay, so that must be Hardcase's. Hardcase is the tinker girl. While the rest of the team waits in the SUV, Jet Set will. Okay, Manic is this new one? Manic asked, glancing out. So Manic has got to be a little bit manic, right? Can we call it something cooler than SUV? Manic asked, glancing around. Like the combat ground vehicle or transport, anything but SUV. Titan waited until the speedster ran out of gas, withering under his stare. Jet Set will follow the truck from high up, and we'll follow Jet Set's instructions until we reach the meeting point. Got it, Jet Set said, nodding. Once we're there, Jet Set will infiltrate from above, with assistance from Hardcase, while the rest of us will hit the team at street level. First thing we're going to do is disable their vehicles. Warcry, you make sure their escape vehicles don't run. Manic, you catch runners and subdue whoever you can with those zip ties. They nodded as Titan pointed each of them out one at a time. She drives a mech suit? Fun. I'll keep my eyes for any supers they might have, and engage as soon as I spot one. Warcry, you back me up against any cowl as soon as you're done with the cars. The rest of you guys should only have to worry about regular gangsters. Titan finished. And remember, if we pull this off, we'll have enough resources to finally do this full time. Jet Set nodded to himself. Everyone was aware of Nexus's finder's fee on recovered tech, money, and cowls. 15% for capes, unaffiliated with Nexus, and 35% for those officially employed by the organization. 50,000 and up for capturing a super, depending on their notoriety. Notoriety. Notoriety? What's that? Notoriety. The Mechonaut had a $3 million bounty on bringing him in alive, for example. Jet Set practically drooled at the thought of being set for life off of one arrest. Of course, superheroing was expensive work. If you were working for Nexus, any collateral damage you caused could be withheld from your reward. Same if you were unaffiliated, although it was harder for them to prove. If you messed up bad enough, you could get drafted. So, drafted, we're gonna learn a little bit more about that, I assume. So tonight they were aiming to earn 15% on 2 trucks full of cash and weapons, maybe capture a cowl, and earn some points toward being noticed by Nexus. Jet Set could picture them driving the trucks straight up to Nexus and watching with glee as the technicians unloaded crate after crate of high-tech weapons, driving their reward higher and higher. I guess we'll actually be calling Nexus in to take the stuff away. Still exciting, though. It was a big night for them. I'm very curious to know more about Jet Set because I want to figure out what kind of person he is. And Titan, all of these people, actually. In Titan style, their leader quizzed each of them on their role. Once he was confident they'd memorized their parts, they all piled into the soccer mom car with Hardcase's armor barely fitting in the back, even collapsed as it was. I feel like Titan, first impressions are that he's like a wannabe military guy, very by the book, not takes everything kind of literally. and is just like one of those natural leaders. Now, whether he's a good leader or not, it seems so, but that remains to be seen. We'll figure it out. Jet activated his power and climbed up into the cold night air, thankful for the hyperweave. The stuff had ridiculous insulation powers, keeping him a comfortable 72 degrees whether he was flying up in the stratosphere or sitting in a sauna. That would be nice. He flew straight up into the sky, disappearing into the black of the night. Uh, uh, he flew straight up into the sky, disappearing into the black of the night sky. Jetset threw a habitual glance over at the wall, like he did every time he flew up high. Flew high up. No, flew up high, yeah. Bright green lights from bright green lights every 500 feet or so, as far as the eye could see. Beyond, nothing but the black of oh, come on, you can figure this out. Beyond, nothing but the black of the ocean, with the occasional glitter of light as the water caught the moonlight just so. Reassured, Jetset flew over the Razor's hideout, opened up his GPS with his team's location on it. "You guys read me?" Jetset said. "We read you." "I've got your location. Stand by for directions." "Standing by." Only a few minutes later, an oversized truck began rumbling from the Razor's safe house, and Jetset began following it, directing his team to parallel its route. It took only a few minutes for the truck to reach its destination, an abandoned warehouse on the northeast side of the city, where a second truck was pulling in at nearly the exact same time. "This is it," Jetset thought, his heart pounding. Jetset waited for his team to pile out of the SUV, with Titan unloading Hardcase's armor before the brown-haired girl took off her glasses, threw them in the car, and climbed into her machine. Once Hardcase was up and running, Jetset pointed her towards the rather large hole in the roof of the warehouse. "I'll go in quiet, then you jump in right behind me, all right?" he said on Jetset's channel. The power-armored... okay, wait, who's saying that? I thought that would have been... Oh, that must be Titan that's saying that, right? Because he said because if it's on Jetset's channel, it would be Titan, because it's not going to be Hardcase. Hardcase is a mousy girl. So, okay. I think that's how that would work. "I'll go in quiet, then you jump in right behind me, all right?" he said on Jetset's channel. The powered armor nodded and gave him a thumbs up. Wait a minute. I'm confused here. Just a sec. Sorry. It could be. But I am right? Like, I just wanted to make sure that Hardcase is a mousy girl, and I didn't miss that or get that confused, because that's going to be... okay. Okay, she is a girl. Okay, cool. All right. So that is Jetset saying that? Because it would make sense to me. That's what I initially thought. Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's like when I started scrolling now, I've lost my place. Not quite that far. There it is. Okay. And I'll go in quiet and you jump in right behind. All right. He said on Jetset's channel. The power armor nodded and gave him a thumbs up. I would think that I mean, maybe it's just odd for me, but it feels like it could be Jetset said on his channel. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but I'm almost positive that it's Jetset saying this. "I'll go in quiet, then you jump in right behind me, all right?" The power armor nodded and gave him a thumbs up. So if I don't even have this, he said on Jetset's channel, then yeah, that makes more sense, because he was waiting for Hardcase to come up with the war machine. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. I was just confused as the he said on Jetset's channel. Okay, I think we got her now. Jetset spotted Titan and Warcry aiming for the two giant entrances on either side, while Manic leaned up against the SUV, knocking energy drink after energy drink. We need to get him some real speedster bars one of these days. That can't be good for him, Jetset thought with a frown. All right, here we're good to go. Titan's voice came over the comms. Here we go, Jetset thought, swooping into the opening from above. As he descended, the light barely caught two armored forms lurking in the. As he descended, the light barely caught two armored forms lurking in the rafters. It seemed as though one side of the equation had brought in some extra muscle to make sure everything went smoothly, or just launch a double cross. Either way, they were going down. I've got lookouts in the rafters. Engaging. Okay, now we're back into where we were before. We know this is Jetset. Yay. Jetset said into his radio. One of the lookouts must have heard him, because he turned to look at Jetset, shock radiating from his posture. In fact, now that he turned into the light, it looked like a cardboard cosplay armor. It was ridiculously thin, smaller than hard cases. There was no way it could actually function as armor. What am I looking at? Is this some kind of joke, or is that cardboard? Jetset asked, forgetting himself for a moment. There was a loud whine as four tubes on the side of the cardboard armor began to rattle, and the strange armor launched itself towards him, fist first. Fist first. Perry, we're back at Perry. Crap, Perry thought as he launched himself towards the flyer. Okay, what do we do now? There's a flyer. He's part of a team and likely has responsibility for checking the roof, which blocked our escape route. Going down will flush us into the rest of the team. So our best bet is to go through him and fly away. Perry's fist impacted the dumbstruck flyer in the chest, knocking him back and smashing him into one of the beams that stretched across the ceiling, discombobulating him. Discombobulating? Oh man, that's a fun word. I haven't seen that word in forever. Thank you for bringing that back into my life. Discombobulating. That's awesome. Do you have an unedited copy of the series? I'm reading on Royal Road. I'm reading from this. I don't have a manuscript yet. Sorry. I have if you're not aware, I'm also on my Discord channel, and so there's a few people in there in the chat. One of them includes Macronomicon himself, who is thankfully here to answer some of these questions that we're having right now. And he just asked, he's like, why are there so many edit things going on here? And he's like, that's why we're having issues. Yes, it's because I'm reading off of Royal Road, so we don't have the edited script in front of us. All right, so where are we now? Okay, we just discombobulated him. Discombobulated. Oh, gangsters. What the hell was that? One of the gangsters shouted moments before all hell broke loose. Three supers entered from ground level. One energy type who controlled sheets of flickering purple energy which sliced through engine blocks with ease. One bruiser who scanned the room for something. One brownish blur that seemed to be tackling one gangster after another and zip-tying their hands behind their backs in a blink of an eye. A speedster. Who's talking? Oh, Perry. I think now's a good time to bail, Perry said, motioning towards the opening in the ceiling. This was a mess and not the easy score they'd been hoping for. Plus, the super team who'd just arrived would assume they were cowls. They'd already punched one of their teammates. Right you are, Heather said, and the two of them aimed for the hole. The scream of jet engines was the only warning as a metal body filled the hole in the roof, smashing down into the two of them, rupturing through the metal ceiling beams like they weren't there. Oof! Perry had the wind driven out of him as the giant metal foot tried to crush his midsection into the pavement, jets in the mech's foot scorching his exterior plating. Oh my goodness. Okay. I cannot wait uh, for this girl. It's going to be really interesting for her voice. Is that cardboard? The mech's modulated voice carried above the general mayhem, cocking its head as it peered down at him. Uh, Turtle, Perry said, grabbing the mech suit's leg on his chest. Heather followed suit. Together, the two of them threw the mech off of them and onto its back. Mech suits were notoriously difficult to stand up once they were on their backs. It was what separated a veteran tinker from an amateur. The turtle problem. The mech suit flew backwards for a moment before ports on its back opened and blasted backwards, pushing its upper body to a standing position. I guess this guy did his homework. At least he was off. At least he was off the two of them. Okay, so we're gonna have to have that cardboard is gonna have to be so mechanized that we don't know it's a girl yet. That'll be interesting. Yeah, I just noticed that. Thank you, Macronomicon. He says hard cases modulated voice should sound neutral or male, which would explain the confusion later. Yes, as we see right now. La 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 la. Perry and Heather scrambled to their feet, taking in the situation. The bruiser was running towards them, his gaze locked on to what was presumably two cowls. This could have gone better, Perry said, bracing himself and triggering blades.exe. The printers connected to the spell disc began making identical marks on Perry's skin, and the rice grain-sized blades triggering the spell. Triggering the spell and connecting him to the form-floating armaments. Connecting him to the form-floating armaments. They appeared in Perry's mind, like limbs he'd had since birth, but only remembered just now, floating behind his back. 5 of them. Ooh, Spider-Man. With the, things from, what was it? Endgame? Or Infinity. I can't remember. I think it was Infinity. Whatever. The Tony suit had them. They're also, in the comic books, but okay, I digress. They were unimpressive. Oh, that's unfortunate. Each of the floating armaments was about the size of a finger, blunt on one side and a single bladed edge on the other, bluish, slightly glowing, and partially see-through. What they lacked in showmanship, they made up in utility. Perry sent 2 blades toward the mech suit's cameras and 2 to jam themselves into the suit's joints, keeping the metallic lug busy. Incoming! Heather shouted. The bruiser was bearing down on them, the ground itself shaking as he approached. On a hunch, Perry sent the last blade, to hit with its blunt side against the guy's skull. Blah, blah, blah. On a hunch, Perry sent the last blade to hit with its blunt side against the guy's skull. Clink! The floating armament stopped cold at the approaching bruiser's skin. I suspected as much, Perry thought sourly. Evade! Shia LaBeouf said. Heather shouted, her suit's fans whirring to life as she floated away from the big guy. It was never a good idea to tangle directly with a bruiser. Power armor was nice, but it never seemed to beat natural supernaturals. To beat natural supernaturals. Plus, bruisers tended to not hold back as much against armor. Okay. Perry dodged backwards and tried to get some distance when a brown blur tackled him to the ground and whipped his hands around behind his back. It felt like someone was zipping a straitjacket up behind. Let's try that again. It felt like someone was zipping a straitjacket up behind him as zip ties manifested themselves all the way up from his fingers to his shoulders, clamping his arms securely behind his back. Sorry, I was distracted by majority rules saying, "Hi, Will. Glad to see you listening in today. Yay!" Perry summoned the blades, keeping the mech suit busy, and used their flat edges to scrape himself off the ground and fling himself out of the way, the unnatural movement causing the bruiser's kick to whiff. Bruiser's kick to whiff? Awesome. I've not had too many kicks whiff before. Is that like a whiff, like a right past him, or just like not be effective? Like, did it actually hit, or did it whiff like right by him? Whiff. Yeah, it's a miss. Nice. That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure though. Perry pressed 4 of the blades flush against his armors, while the 5th began sawing through the zip ties on his hands. Began sawing through the zip ties on his hands. Of course, now the mech suit was free to act. He's an energy type, the mech suit shouted, indicating the ethereal blades, helping Perry bob and weave faster than his inertia should allow. Well, then what's with the cardboard? Other one's a tinker. We're going to have to assign people to this. Okay. So maybe Jet and this Macronomicon, you can give me an indication here. Because he's an energy type. Mech suit shouted, that would be hard case. And then, well, then what's with the cardboard? I would imagine is Titan. And then other one's a tinker. That could be hard case again. And someone else says tinker and an energy type. Or it could be Jet Set that says other one's a tinker. And then hard case says tinker and energy and an energy type. It's an onomatopoeia, I think. It almost certainly is, yes. Whiff. The mech suit rushed forward towards Perry, which was when Heather launched herself down from the ceiling beams and did a textbook drop kick to the mech suit's face. The result was unimpressive. Because Heather plus power armor weighed a little over 100 pounds. The mech suit was substantially heavier. Dang it! Heather cursed as the mech suit's armored fingers seized her leg and slammed her into the ground. Ouch. Crack. Perry winced as he heard something break. Whether it was pavement, armor, or, God forbid, Heather, he didn't know yet. He was kind of busy. I don't suppose we can convince you guys to let us go? Perry asked. We're obviously not with these guys. We can get this all sorted out in the Nexus, the bruiser said. Warcry, you think you can cut their armor off without hurting them? Sure. The energy-wielding girl said with a malicious tone that Perry was distinctly uncomfortable with. That sure was a little bit too happy. Sure. 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 Oh, sorry. Okay. This is not how I wanted to be introduced to Nexus, Perry thought. Getting dragged in wearing cuffs and booked on your first outing was unacceptable. Even if they were cleared of involvement with the Razors, first impressions meant a lot. He'd always be that cardboard kid that got his ass kicked on the first night out, and likely liable for damages. The world was not kind to the loser. Perry shot himself up into the rafters, redirecting his blades toward the energy wielder. Warcry, they'd called her, who was currently advancing on Heather's prone form. Ah! Hey! Cut it out! Warcry shouted as the blunt side of his knives darted around her, beating any opening they could find past her scintillating sheets of purple light. He succeeded in driving Warcry back from Heather, but now Perry couldn't dodge as easily. Hoping he'd be safe up where the ground heroes would have more trouble reaching him. A dull impact crashed against his chest, sending him tumbling back down. Perry could make out the blue spandex flyer from the very beginning, already back on his feet. Shoot, Perry thought, spinning faster than he could hope to control and smashing into the ground head first, his armor creaking from the impact as his neck was violently twisted. HP 1. I just took lethal damage. Perry went limp, dropping his floating armaments to the ground with an artistic tinkle. Oh gosh, the mech suit said, stepping forward. Is he okay? Okay or not, get that armor off him first. We can sort it out when we're done here, the bruiser said, seemingly the leader of the group. Damn it! Perry pulled the blades back and pushed himself forward, skittering across the pavement towards Heather as fast as he could. A single immovable foot slammed down on his chest, putting an end to that idea. See, some of the smarter cowls will play dead to create an opening. Always restrain them first, then check for injuries. I'm not a cowl, Perry said. Could have fooled me, the green-eyed bruiser said, lifting Perry up with an iron grip. You messed Jetset up pretty bad. Hey, he came at me first, Perry said. Besides, shouldn't you be more worried about him? He nodded to the left. The bruiser's green eyes widened as he glanced over at Heather's dad, his limbs contorting out of the zip ties with the usual ease of a man taking off a hat, I think. He was standing next to the back of his truck. Don't mind me, kids, Chrono said with a grin before unlatching the massive doors. Keep doing your thing. Medic, the bruiser said. The brown blur impacted against Kronos, and suddenly it came to a stop, revealing a man wearing some thick brown biking leathers, his fist caught in Kronos' jaw like flypaper. I'm saying Kronos, and it's not, it's Carnos. Carnos backhanded the speedster with enough force to send him sliding across the concrete, his eyes rolled back in his head. Carnos was a particularly nasty shapeshifter. His transformations were unusually visceral, and he fought dirty. That's Carnos! That's Carnos. Engage from range. Warcry. Stop whatever he's doing. Warcry stepped forward and unleashed a plane of crackling purple force. Wow, removing the outside of the truck in the blink of an eye, revealing the contents. It was not a weapon shipment. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. That is not a weapon shipment, Perry thought. Holy Hannah, that was a long chapter. Didn't help much that I was struggling significantly with it for some reason. I don't know why. How long are these next two chapters here? We might need to do one more thing because we're at 30 minutes already, which I'm trying to keep myself to. I thought we were including chapter 10. Are we not including chapter 10? We're on chapter 9 right now. Macronomicon says there should just be one chapter left. And yeah, we're doing 10. Okay, so then we have 9 and 10 to do. We have 2 more chapters. There's no way that I'll be able to get those done and still get on with the rest of my day. So apparently, you just did 8. I did just do 8. That was 8. Yeah, I know. What's up with that, hey? Macronomicon was like, you just did 8? What the heck? That's crazy. Okay, so Neotree, woot, in both channels. Yeah, I think we might need to do one more shift to get this done. For some reason, I thought yesterday we had managed to get 7 and 8 done, and then we were going to do 9 and 10 today, but we didn't do 8, clearly. So we just did 8, and now we're going to do 9 and 10 tomorrow, I guess. So we get one more day, apparently. Happy day for us. Okay, I like this note from Macronomicon at the bottom of this chapter. Enjoy. That's a fun chapter. We're introduced with a whole bunch of different characters. We're gonna have to figure out a little bit more about these characters and who they are so that we know how they're going to act, their personalities, and what they're gonna sound like so that we can cast them better. Um, because we have Titan, and we have Hardcase, and we have Jet Set, and we have Warcry, and we have Karnos, who is Heather's dad, who is apparently a cowl. Monday, Tuesday, happy day. I'm not sure how you got chapter 8 out of that one. Did I am I wrong? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking too. Okay, no, we do only have one more chapter. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I was wrong. That was chapter 9 that we just finished. Chapter 10 is the debut of Paradox. Okay, well, fair enough. We can do chapter 10 and try and get it all done. And then we won't worry about doing it tomorrow. And then we'll have it all completed and finished. It'll take a little bit of extra time today, but that's okay because we'll have to take extra time either way, right? Either tomorrow morning or today. Might as well get it all done in one. All right, so let's get on with this one. Chapter 10, the debut of Paradox. Okay. This is a brief history of supers, it says at the bottom of this little thing here. Okay. The first hint of high tide was also the first recorded trigger. One Edward Collins, July 15th, 1969, in a sleepy Midwest town. The young man was playing chicken with some of the local color and lost control of his car, tumbling down a ravine. When the car was cut open, they were amazed to find young Mr. Collins unconscious, but without a scratch. Excuse me, I'm sorry. When an IV was attempted, the needle failed to penetrate his skin. His x-rays were opaque. It is possible that there were other people who triggered before or around this time, but records are spotty, as 2 weeks later, just as the media and government were starting to show extreme interest in Mr. Collins' case, the first high tide came. Sea level rose over 100 feet overnight, drowning the most populous portions of the world, killing nearly 1 billion people from drowning and hypothermia. That's horrible. Over the next few months, many, many more starved as thousands of farms were permanently ruined by the salty ocean water smothering it. These weren't the only challenges facing humans back then. Once the tide arrived in 1969, all living creatures showed a similar rate of triggering when subjected to extreme stress, and during high tide, the rate skyrocketed from 1 in a million to 1 in 1,000. Anything from a common rat to a mosquito had a chance of triggering. Looking back, many scientists say that statistically, humans should not have survived the first high tide as a species, and that there may have been some kind of interference on our behalf. Perhaps it can be traced back to a few nameless supers who leveraged their powers to keep their people alive through those dark times. The first high tide was the longest recorded, and the last for 4 months, the ocean rolling in over 100 feet, then dropping precipitously over and over again over a 24-hour period, killing land and sea life alike with its extreme changes. It wasn't until 25 years later, during the fourth high tide, that the first prawn was reported. Prawn. I need to take a drink, I'm sorry. Bam, 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 bam. By this point, humans had simply taken to living where high tide couldn't reach them. But when the prawns boiled out of the ocean in a feeding frenzy, it became apparent that high tide could and would reach them. A brief history of supers. Bum, bum, bum. Prawn gun. Perry. Perry had seen them before in grainy historical photos from the early 90s. Why does that look so weird? Is that how we say 90s? That's awesome. As the easily vanquished villains in cartoons and movies rendered in beautiful fake 3D and in pictures from 12 years ago, with his mom standing next to a dead one, looking like a proud big game hunter. He'd never seen a prawn in person. The creature had a silvery, smooth, segmented exterior that looked both shiny and slightly pliable. Yeah, pliable. And slightly pliable. Perry knew from his studies that it was both extremely hard and extremely pliable. Two opposing traits that boasted a damage resistance that was beyond what conventional materials should be capable of. The creature had a bulbous head, a bit like the extinct beluga, with little mandibles jutting out in front, and each body segment had two pairs of stubby legs. Honestly, it was a little silly looking. The problem was, a prawn didn't care if you thought it was silly looking. To the prawn, you looked like food. Prawns become the apex predator, is that what we're saying? Carnos ripped a tube out from between the creature's slack mandibles and jumped out of the truck, sprinting away at full speed. The bruiser dropped Perry and did the smartest thing he could. He dove for the hose and tried to shove it back into the monster's face. Unfortunately, he was just a bit too slow. The prawn reared back and headbutted the bruiser's entire body, sending him tumbling backwards. Blood spraying from his nose until he impacted the concrete wall. "Titan!" the mech suit shouted. Perry rose to his feet, heart slamming in his ears, as loud as the panicked screams of the Razor Gang wiggling in place, their arms and legs tied behind their backs. Free food. Oh no, oh no. So I do have a question about the prawns. Are they actually prawns or some new species? Maybe like a mutated-ish prawn? Um, the noise and commotion caught the enormous sea creature's attention, and it began climbing out of the destroyed truck, its segments expanding as it unpacked itself, approaching the helpless criminals, mandibles quivering. There was only one thing to do. New quest: defeat the prawn. Reward: 1500 XP. Reputation with Nexus. I really wish I hadn't taken so many ethics courses, Barry thought with a scowl as he sprinted forward, directing his floating armaments forward, catching shirt collars and belt loops on the blunt side of the magical projections, then hauling the reprehensible individuals away from the creature 5 at a time. "Hey!" Perry shouted, waving his cardboard-covered arms in front of the creature. "Over here, you abomination of the sea! I've seen bigger nuggets than you in my stool. You're so weak my mom could kick your ass," which is, I mean, not saying much because his mom is like a super and really strong. Maybe the creature understood him, or maybe it just found him to be closer than any of the other squawking prey. Perry would never know. He did get its attention, though. The prawn lashed out with deceptive speed, catching Perry's entire body between its mandibles. The creature's head was about the size of a bus, so the small mandibles were still big enough to cut someone in half. Tiny little bite-sized chunks for the prawn. Perry's breath was driven out of his body as the jagged mandibles crushed the air out of his lungs. The razor-sharp spikes crushed through his ostensibly bulletproof armor in short order, piercing all the way down to the cardboard battery filled with pressurized gas that formed the structural frame/power of the suit. Hiss. The high-pressure gaseous battery acid shot... this is one of those ones I probably should look it up. Gaseous or gaseous? Gaseous. I can't remember exactly how this one is said, if I'm being honest. Gaseous. No preference on that one. First one. Gaseous. 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 Or gaseous. Gaseous or gaseous. Fun. We'll have to find out which one's more popular later on. If you have opinions, you're welcome to share them. Gaseous or gaseous? I like gaseous better than gaseous, but That's just me. The high-pressure gaseous battery acid shot out of Perry's armor as the corrugation was pierced, shooting right into the creature's eyes and mouth. Perry was only spared by the inner Perry was only spared by the inner rubber lining of the suit. The monster gave a shrill scream, thrashing around and taking Perry along for the ride, as the spikes in its mandibles were inward facing, designed to hold on to its prey until the job was done. Perry pulled the floating armaments back to himself and tried stabbing the creature in the eyes and face to no avail. The rubbery-looking skin deformed a bit, then sprang back. He felt a heavy jostle, and he saw Heather's power armor behind him, grasping the mandibles and pulling them apart, motors whirring as they ran at maximum capacity. Oh, God. Now I know how Heather felt when I threw her into the air. Now I know how Heather felt when I flew her into the air. It was a handful of DC motors and plastic gears against certain death, and Perry was anything but confident. He braced the 5 blades against the creature's jaws, braced his hands, and pushed with everything he had. Kinda sorta wishing I had a giant sword right about now. An instant later, he felt the pressure loosen, so he shoved himself forward, off the barbed pincers and toward the monster's slobbering mouthhole. Yeah. Off the barbed pincers and towards the monster's slobbering mouthhole. Perry turned his fan's thrust up to max and managed to avoid burying himself in the creature's mouth, bouncing off its forehead and winding up prone on its back. Heather kicked off. Is it going to be prawn riding time? We're going to do some buck and bronco. Is that what's happening? Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum. Heather kicked off the creature's mandibles and floated away, her thrusters whirring. How fast do you think you can get a prawn gun? Perry asked, latching onto the edge of one of the creature's armor plates and holding on for dear life. Not fast enough, Heather shouted back. Crud. Hard case. Boop the snoot. The bloody-nosed bruiser, Titan, shouted as he ran back into the brawl. War cry. See if you can't kill it. Jet set. Get Manic safe. Oh, okay. Hardcase made a jet-assisted jump high into the air with the warhouse and slammed down with all the force of his mech suit's weight right onto the creature's forehead. I was like, wait, that's not right. It's not his, it's hers. But because this is from Perry's point of view, he thinks it's a dude, so therefore we're going to think it's a dude for a bit. Not 10 feet away from where Perry was clinging on. Ah! Hardcase deformed the creature's skull, then bounced off like he'd landed on a trampoline, flew flailing into the distance, smashing through the warehouse's wall. A glittering purple plane of force appeared above Perry and nearly took his hand off as it slammed down into the creature's armored head, scattering to la 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 la. This is a really awesome way of reading this, Steve. You're doing great. A glittering purple plane of force appeared above Perry's head and nearly took his hand off as it slammed down into the creature's armored head, scattering into so many glittering motes of light. It's energy resistant, Warcry shouted. Watch it, Perry shouted down at her. The spandex-wearing girl stuck out her tongue, sporting a split lip where one of Perry's blades had conked her in the face. At least I used the blunt side, Perry thought with a scowl. The prawn seemed entranced by the shiny mech's flailing path through the wall of the warehouse, and he gave chase, nearly dislodging Perry with its sheer speed. A meaty thud sounded through the prawn's body, resounded through the prawn's body as Titan smashed into its side, sending it veering off course and finally tearing Perry from his perch on the creature's back. Perry tumbled to the ground in a pile of limbs and climbed to his feet just in time to receive a tail slap from the creature's lobster-like hind quarters. Perry flew through the air, spinning wildly until his arm caught on a solid steel beam, shearing off the armor instantly. HP 0. Ow! Perry groaned, staring up at the ceiling, feeling the night air on his right arm as his suit bemoaned its injuries into the tiny HUD on his lower field of vision, not left field of vision. Power 54%. Right arm non-responsive. Spell frame damaged. UR thruster non-responsive. Perry sat up as Heather flew over to him. You still with us? She asked. Ugh, Perry said as he rose to his feet. Through the hole in the wall, he could see the other supers giving the prawn hell. What do we have? What did they have that we don't? Perry asked, panting and clutching a stitch in his side. Besides having real powers? Heather asked. They have a leader. Dibs! Dibs! Heather and Perry said simultaneously as Perry broke into a looping stride, heading for the battle. They're trying to be like, I'm going to be the leader. Perry jumped through the hole in the wall and steered clear of the monster's thrashing tail, heading for the head. Heading for the head. That's awesome. Heading for the head where all the fighting was going down. The girl with the purple planes. The girl with the purple planes of energy was watching from nearby, deflecting this disintegration. This is not meant to be a tongue twister, is it? The girl with the purple planes of energy was watching from nearby, deflecting the disintegrating falling debris from nearby buildings and removing tripping hazards, while the flyer was hovering above the fight. The flyer was hovering above the fight, shouting something into his earpiece. Well, that was just fun, wasn't it? Most of the actual fighting was being done by the bruiser and the mech suit, who were trading the creature's attention back and forth, keeping it from doing irreversible damage to each other. The speedster was nowhere to be seen, most likely still lights out. As he approached, the prawn got a good hold on the mech suit, crunching down onto the armored chest plate. The chest armor detached and the mech suit fell back to the ground, revealing a bit of the operator's arms inside the egg-shaped cockpit of steel and wiring. Uh-oh. The machine fell backwards towards safety when its auto-stabilizers kicked on again, trying to right its balance, heedless of the situation. Perry saw Hardcase's arms moving frantically across the controls as the jets forced him back towards the steel-crushing mandibles of the monster. Perry leaped forward, activating his two lower fans for an assisted jump, slamming his shoulder into Hardcase and pushing with all three remaining fans and 5 blades, wrenching the immense inertia of Hardcase's armor out of the way of the prawn's next attack. A blunt pressure struck across Perry's chest as they tumbled out of the way, his armor caught by the very tip of the creature's grasping mandible. Perry hit the ground and barely managed to scramble out of the way as Hardcase slid across the ground, sending up sparks as his cockpit's structural cage contended with asphalt. That's one fun thing, asphalt. In Canada, we say asphalt, not asphalt, for those of you who didn't know. We're more, I don't know if the right word is prim, maybe frigid, I don't know. But we saying asphalt feels really rude. So we call asphalt. It's not correct. It is asphalt. But for some reason, we say asphalt instead of asphalt. It's awesome. It's not an interesting note, but it's it's what I got. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Are you okay? Perry panted as he stood up, his chest piece leaking gas into the air, a huge wedge of his armor and clothes simply torn away. All the way from his right shoulder past the navel, he could feel the cold of the night air flooding in, his mother's amulet rattling against his chest. Yeah, Hardcase said, pushing himself up, helmet doing a double take at Perry. It's good that you're fine too. Good, Perry said, staring up at where Titan was riding the thing's head. Where Perry had been earlier, beating on its squishy armor to little effect as it tried to dislodge him. Can you throw me up there? Perry asked. My flight is broked. Is borked? That's a new one. My flight is borked. Sure, dude. Yep, borked. Did you make that word up, or is that a known word that I'm just not familiar with? It's the ass's fault. The asphalt. Yep. La 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 la. Where are we here? Perry put a foot into the mech suit's oversized palm, waved to get Heather's attention. Then he was flying through the air. Perry landed right beside Titan, stopping his forward momentum with the floating armaments. He reached down and grabbed one of the sectioned ridges on the monster's armor and began prying with everything he had, wedging his 5 blades under the ridge and attempting to lever the armored plate up with those as well. No matter how hard Perry tried, he couldn't get the monster's armor to lift. Borked exists? Okay. Cool. It's just new to me. That's all it is. It's awesome. I like learning new stuff. So does borked mean like it's fucked, it's screwed, it's bad, it's ruined? Through context, that's what I'm kind of getting from that. I'm just new to that one. Yeah, I messed up pretty bad, I think. Nice. Okay. Yeah, it's a song for very broken. Okay. I've never looked it up, just learned it from context as well. Nice. Slang. I figured it was probably slang. La 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 la. No matter how hard Perry pried, he couldn't get the monster's armor to lift. His suit was no longer aiding his strength, and each of his individual blades only had about the same strength as a man. This thing was much tougher. Titan was on the ball, grabbing the armor plate and lifting with a scream of effort, the veins in his neck standing out. Perry felt the pressure of the knives shift a little, and he was able to get his fingers under the plates. Just a little. God, I hope I don't lose the tips of my fingers, Perry thought as he strained to pry up the creature's armor. Heather landed on his other side, her finger sliding under the plate and prying it up as well. Between the 3 of them, they managed to lift the creature's armor by about an inch. Perry slipped the magical blades under the armor plate, point first, and started them burrowing into the prawn's flesh. Experiencing true pain for the first time, the monster began thrashing much more violently, flinging the 3 of them away as it began writhing in place, curling itself into knots as it tried to eject the blades, making a mess of its central nervous system. Perry slid to a halt on his back, his armor preventing road rash as he stopped. A giant tail whipped above his head and crashed a concrete wall above Perry's head, sending huge slabs of heavy infrastructure raining down on him. Perry's life flashed in front of his eyes for a brief moment before a plane of neon purple force deflected the rubble. "Thanks," Perry said, hopping to his feet and getting behind something heavy. Warcry rolled her eyes and moved on, zapping tumbling concrete and steel like she was playing Fruit Ninja at the arcade. Fruit Ninja, yeah! Perry turned his attention back to the 5 blades inside the prawn and began working them like a blender. The creature, oh, that would be awful. That's really, I can mentally feel that in my body. That's not feeling very good. The creature's thrashing redoubled for a moment, causing devastating damage to the nearby buildings before it finally lay still. Quest complete. Defeat the prawn. Contribution 54%. Reward 810 XP. Reputation up with Nexus. Congratulations. You have... The system words were drowned out by the pillar of light that blasted down from the sky, forcing the assembled supers to shield their eyes. When Perry blinked the spots out of his eyes, he was shell-shocked. That's Solaris! Is that how we would say that, Solaris? The number 1 super in Franklin City stood in the middle of the spot the prawn's head used to be, glancing around the scene with chaos with mild amusement. The flesh of the prawn had been cauterized in a smooth cut where the beam of light had simply vaporized the monster. Perry's blades and a couple inches of have simply vaporized the monster, Perry's blades, and a couple inches of the asphalt. I always feel like I'm just saying it like it's really inappropriate. Asphalt. I love that. Okay, now the question is Solaris going to take credit for killing the prawn? But you'd think with the whole like quest complete thing, he would have evidence if other people are able to see that. Perry's heart stopped and skin went cold as the prospect of being on the godlike superhero's shit list. A prospect of being on the godlike super's shit list. Titan stepped forward. We were attempting a bust on an arms shipment. the rather large bruiser said. My team was getting the situation under control when Karnos unleashed the monster to cover his escape. My team is Titan, Jet Set, Warcry, Hardcase, and Mimic, who is resting right now. He pointed to himself and the other supers one by one as he named them. These two jumped in to help once the Prawn was loose, Titan said, motioning to Perry's ragged form and Heather, who landed beside him, conveniently glossing over the start of the conflict. Conveniently glossing over the start of the conflict. I think I actually like this guy, Perry thought. Okay, is Solaris a dude? Yes. Well, you look a little worse for wear, kid, Solaris said. We'll figure out his voice, I think, when we know more about him. Approaching Perry, causing his heart to leap into his throat and palms to become instantly sweaty. Who made your armor? Solaris mused. Who made your armor? Solaris asked, musing at a piece of cardboard fraying off of Perry's chest, his whole body radiating energy that Perry could feel, almost pushing him back. I did, sir, Perry gulped, barely able to speak. Harcase's helmet cocked to the side a bit. What's your name, son? Paradox, sir. Perry tried to avoid his voice breaking. Did he succeed? Paradox, sir. I suppose because your armor shouldn't work, but it does. That's a good super name. Perry's skin went ice cold. Yes, yes, it is. My super name. Because that's what you asked for. And you? Solaris asked, glancing over at Heather. Don't have one yet, she said, her back straight. Well, keep at it, young lady. Solaris stepped back and scanned the surroundings, along with all the zip-tied gangsters trying to worm their way away. I'll log the infrastructure damage as Kronos' liability. You kids did good keeping the bystanders safe and dealing with the unexpected, but I'll expect you to do a bit more recon next time. Yes, sir, Titan said, nodding furiously, along with Perry, everyone else, and some of the tied-up gangsters. We'll be all good. Good. Solaris turned into a being of pure light and launched himself into the air, disappearing into the sky. So did Solaris just kind of hang back and watch the whole thing and be like, let's see how they do. Oh, they almost dead? Well, we'll just keep letting them go. What happens? Oh, thank God, Perry thought, his entire body going wobbly as the adrenaline was flushed out of his system. Good job, Paradox, Heather said, slapping him on the back. Think we should get out of here now, Paradox? I know, Perry said, removing Heather's hand. Excuse me, sorry. Hold on, Titan said, walking over to the two of them, wadding up some toilet paper and shoving it up his nose. Excuse me. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I don't think we would have beat that thing without your help. That thing? Kept it busy until Solaris showed up. Maybe, but beat it? I don't think so. There's still a truckload of money in there. Would you two like a share? What? Warcry demanded. You can't just give away shares to these guys. We don't even know if they were part of Kronos' crew or not. Them helping us does not equate absence of guilt. Very true. Paradox did hit me pretty hard, Jet Set said, rubbing his chest and wincing. I think it would be all right, Hardcase said, his metal fingers tapping together nervously. I hear you guys, Titan said, glancing back at them before regarding Perry and Heather. You can have my share. But it's my share and I can do what I want with it, Titan interrupted Warcry. Besides, what would I buy? Bigger muscles? Titan offered Perry his hand. Oh, this guy's suspiciously smart. He was handling his team while also buying goodwill from Perry very smoothly. He knew he was being handled, but Perry wasn't going to turn down 10%. Perry shook the guy's hand. All we got to do is wait for the Nexus bean counters, Titan said. Warcry, would you mind driving Maniac to the hospital? All right, Warcry said, heading out into the dark of night. In the distance, Perry heard the sound of a car engine starting up, and in the distance, sirens. So, your armor's really cool, Harkay said. How'd you make the power source work like that? Perry sat down next to the giant mech and described at length how he created a non-centralized power source by using pressurized air, highly diluted battery acid, and cardboard lined with rubber. Hardcase seemed especially fascinated with the idea of incorporating structural batteries into his own mech suit, and gave him his number so he could pick his brain at a later date, maybe even buy some of his cardboard batteries off of him. Could be a great source of income, selling inexpensive material improved by my ability to other tinkers for a huge premium, Perry thought, slipping the scrap of paper in the dangling breast pocket of his shredded fancy date clothes. What you doing? Heather asked, sitting down beside Perry as Hardcase was called over by the Nexus workers to sign the paperwork indicating her participation. Oh, is that caught in the editing, her participation? Would it be his participation? Because we don't know that her is a him? Or him is a her, sorry. Yeah. I know that this is the raw manuscript, so maybe you guys caught that. Maybe you guys caught that in the editing, because we know that this is not as edited as what you have after Royal Road. But yeah, I'll let you make a note there and you can decide or find out whether it is or not, because I don't have that script yet. Networking? I think I might be able to make a decent side hustle supplying tinkers with specialty parts. I got Hardcase's number. That was weird, Jetset said from where he was holding an ice pack to the back of his head. I've never seen Hardcase give anyone her number before. Her? Perry asked, brow raised. He glanced down at Mom's love charm hanging from his neck. Huh. I think you've been wearing that long enough, Heather said, yanking the long chain over his helmet and pocketing the amulet. Pocketing. Is it pocketing? Pocketing? And pocketing the amulet. It's making you delirious. Note from Macronomicon at the bottom here says, Mom's love charm does its job. Don't worry, it's totally legal. Good deal. Hey, what do you say? We're done. We got her finished up. A little bit longer than I was expecting to do today, but chapter 10 is finished. We have an indication of a few more of the characters that are coming in here, and I am all about it. These seem like a lot of fun. We're going to figure out some voices, figure out some more personality traits, and cast them with some people. I kind of feel like Justin Thomas James would make a really good Titan. He has that air of like calm, collected authority that I think would work really well for this. We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with Hardcase, because we'll have to get with Jeff about that to know how we're gonna make those voices modulated enough so that they sound gender neutral, but yet sound distinctly feminine, or possibly more feminine later on. Because I think that, yeah, she's going to be fun. And Solaris is going to be fun too. Is a Superman type with light-like powers, as far as I can tell, but that's from reading. That's from Neo. Put that note in there on my Discord. Okay. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me as we do this cold read, just learning about the book, learning about the stories. We're not actually recording any of this. That will be done when we're actually recording the book. We will be doing that live as well, but I think that'll just be in my Discord, because we cannot have a recorded version of the actual book as far as like a full thing of it. So we will be doing that in my Discord. Links to everywhere. My Discord, Soundbooth Theater's Discord, where they do live readings themselves there as well, many of the narrators that are involved. And also Macronomicon's Patreon is there for you to check out, for you to peruse and look around. Patreon will have like early releases of chapters and other little goodies and things like that. So go check it out. Also, if you are interested in finding out more about Macronomicon's work and what he's been doing, some of his stuff is on Royal Road. You can also find some of his stuff on Kindle. He and I have worked on 2 different series together already. One is The Stitched Worlds, which was my introduction to Macronomicon, and I became a huge fan almost instantaneously. That entire, the entire arc of that series is available now on Kindle and also on audible.com for you to check out. And then the other one is The Wake of the Ravager. Book 1 is called The Problem with Princesses. I believe that one is possibly still on Royal Road. If it is not, it is on Kindle. That one we've completed book 1, which I believe has an unofficial release date of March, I want to say 13th, early March, is when book 1 of that one is going to be coming out. So lots of great stuff to check out. Please do that. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you're on YouTube, and send the notifications, because just because I'm done with my cold reads of this particular portion, Jeff Hayes is also doing cold reads of other stuff currently right now. So he's working on that as well. And you want to be notified about what he's doing, because that guy is a phenom. He is really, really incredible and talented at what he does. And it's just a joy to see him work. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I'm so excited to get started on the series. It's going to be phenomenal. So we will talk to you again soon when that happens. Ciao for now.